Hello, my name is Peter Bricks. I'm a debtor bankruptcy attorney in Atlanta, Georgia, with the offices in Woodstock, Cumming, Jonesboro, and Dunwoody. I would like to talk to you today about what I call a common myth. Will I lose my home if I file bankruptcy? But first, I want to issue this brief disclaimer. We're a debt relief agency proudly assisting consumers in filing bankruptcy under the U.S. Bankruptcy Code. However, there's no attorney-client relationship with the viewer of this message unless there is a fee agreement. We'd have to meet with you individually to offer you applicable and accurate legal advice. This is intended only for educational purposes. Okay, so we're talking about will I lose my home if I file bankruptcy? A lot of times people will call me up and say, I want to file a Chapter 13. I'll say, why do you want to file a Chapter 13? Say, oh, well, I'll lose my home if I file a Chapter 7. And I'll say, well, maybe that's true, but probably not. And then you get into the facts and realize that's not true at all based on their facts. Here's basically the only way you would lose your home because you filed Chapter 7. Let's say you had way too much equity in your home. Based on which state you're in and whether you're using your state or your federal exemption, it'll determine how much home equity you can protect in a Chapter 7 bankruptcy. So in Georgia, for example, you can protect 21,500 of home equity as an individual. Your married couple is going to have 43 grand. The question. So if someone came to me and said, "I don't have a mortgage. There's no lien on my home. My house is worth 250 grand. Will I lose? I don't want to file Chapter 7 because I'm going to lose my home most likely." The answer there would be, okay, yes. I theoretically could find a way to keep it, maybe by negotiating with the trustee. But based on those numbers, you'd certainly either lose the home or have to figure out a way to pay the excess equity. But most of those people aren't filing Chapter 7 because they could theoretically tap into that equity and pay off their creditors or something. So that would be an unusual scenario to file a Chapter 7. So the typical person comes to me, they're in arrears on their mortgage or they're underwater on their mortgage, they're current on their mortgage, but their house, particularly in this real estate market, is sunk in value. Their home's worth 250, they owe 300. In that scenario, would you lose your home because you filed Chapter 7? No, because your Chapter 7 trustee cannot take your home without paying off the lien on your house, and the lien on your house is worth more than your home. They'd also have to pay you your exemptions, realtor commission. I mean, it just wouldn't make any financial sense. So you are going to keep your home because of that. Now, you might lose your home for another reason, but that actually is really unrelated to bankruptcy, which is you're just in arrears. You're in default of your mortgage, and the bank can foreclose because of that. So the bank can foreclose. Now, a Chapter 7 would at least initially stop the foreclosure, but Chapter 7 is not a repayment chapter. So Chapter 7 wouldn't devise a repayment plan, and therefore if you enter 6 months in arrears on the eve of foreclosure, your bankruptcy is going to stop the foreclosure, assuming the stay is in effect. And but then you get that one little brief break, but then the bank can ask for a lift stay, or after the case is over, initiate a foreclosure, and you won't be able to really point to anything about a Chapter 7 to stop it. But remember, that was true whether you filed or not. If you didn't file bankruptcy, you were getting foreclosed the next day. So it wasn't the Chapter 7 that caused you to lose your home. It was Chapter 7 didn't devise the repayment plan to get you caught up on the arrears. Okay? So if you need a repayment plan to get caught up in the arrears, you're 9 months behind in your mortgage, they're foreclosing, now you're in Chapter 13, or you file a Chapter 13 to preserve your home because the reason you've come to me and you want to file bankruptcy is your number one concern is you want to save your home. Now you need the repayment plan to get caught up on the arrears because Chapter 7 is not going to do it for you. So now you do a Chapter 13, and that would save your home. And in the initial example I used of the debtor who had 200, I forget what I said, but 250,000 in home equity, which was more than you could keep in Georgia. Let's just pretend the debtor had 150,000 home equity over their 21,500 or $43,000 exemption. That means, at least theoretically, the creditor pool could recover 150,000, assuming the debtor had no other assets that could be liquidated. 150,000 in a Chapter 7 liquidation. So in a Chapter 13, you could file bankruptcy, keep the home. However, you're going to need to repay that 150 grand to your creditors, assuming you know have at least that much in debt, and tap in your home to do that, and you're going to therefore need the money to be able to pay that off over 60 months, 36 to 60 months. So in that scenario, if you don't have the income to afford the repayment, you're in a pickle because you can't afford the Chapter 13 repayment plan that's needed to pay off what the creditors would get in a Chapter 7 liquidation. Your Chapter 7 is almost certainly not going to be able to protect your home. And then if you don't file either chapter, you're going to see a foreclosure. So, sometimes you might see someone in that scenario, and the question is, it's not, is the bankruptcy going to stop? Is bankruptcy the reason I'm going to lose my home? Not really. You just kind of Chapter 7, Chapter 13 either make sense for you, and then non-bankruptcy, you were losing it anyway. So that's the reason you lost your home was because you were uh, well, in that scenario, the reason is I guess you'd have an accumulation of other debt because you wouldn't be worried about a foreclosure if you had no mortgage. But you might have be filing to protect you from a $500,000 judgment or something. I don't know. So that'll cover whether you would lose your house if you file bankruptcy.